Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. Let's dive into a story that begins with confidence and ends in chaos. She walked through the front door like a movie star entering a room she forgot she used to live in. Same smug smile, same careful hair. She even hummed, as she rolled her suitcase across the hardwood floor like nothing in the world could go wrong today. She called out, "Honey, I'm back. Wait till you hear about the resort." I didn't answer. She didn't notice at first. She just kept talking. About the client dinner that apparently turned into karaoke night. About the team bonding hike she never mentioned before. About how the hotel robes were too scratchy for 5 stars. All of it delivered with the kind of fake exhaustion people wear after a vacation they're pretending was work. She still hadn't noticed the phone on the counter. My phone. Her voice. And a man laughing. It was still playing the audio I'd received anonymously that morning. No message. No name. Just 47 seconds of her voice whispering things I never heard her say to me. My stomach flipped halfway through it, but I kept listening. I even made coffee while it looped, waiting. When she finally reached the kitchen, she stopped. The sound was unmistakable. Her saying, "I wish I could stay here forever." Him laughing and calling her baby. Then silence. Then moaning. Her eyes landed on the phone. And that's when the smile died. She blinked once, twice, then took a step back. Like she thought she'd walked into the wrong house. Like I was the intruder, not her. I didn't say a word. She whispered, "Where did you get that?" I still didn't speak. She reached for the phone like it was a gun on the table. Too late, because at that exact moment the front door opened again. And in stepped the courier holding a box, labeled, "Property of Suzanne Brenner, Room 217, Los Pinos and Santa Fe." Her face? Absolute panic. For a moment, the three of us stood frozen. Me, her, and the delivery guy who looked way too casual for someone holding a box that was about to detonate a marriage. He held it out like it was a birthday gift. "This just came in for a Miss Brenner," he said, checking the slip. "Signed off from New Mexico. Weird route, huh?" She didn't move. Her nails dug into her palm as she stared at the label. Los Pinos, and that wasn't Aspen, and she knew I knew that. It matched the reservation receipt I had printed earlier, the one tucked behind the toaster now, just in case she needed more proof than her own panic. I stepped forward and took the box without a word. She hadn't even blinked. Her lips parted like she was about to speak, but nothing came out. The courier gave an awkward smile and left, closing the door behind him with a soft thud that somehow sounded louder than it should have. "You want to open it?" I asked, voice low. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just hollow. She shook her head slowly, like if she didn't touch it, it wouldn't be real. Like it might vanish if she pretended hard enough. But I wasn't in the mood for pretending anymore. I set the box on the kitchen island and cut it open with the house key. Inside were 2 things. A silky black nightgown and a Polaroid. Not digital. Not sent by text. Someone took the time to print this out, to mail it in a physical box, to make it impossible to ignore. I didn't have to flip it over. I already saw enough. Her face, laughing. Him shirtless, kissing her neck. Same nightgown. Same woman who was now standing 5 feet from me, suddenly looking like a stranger in my own home. "What is this?" I finally asked. She whispered, "It's not what it looks like." It was almost funny, because I'd heard that phrase in movies, in sitcoms, even in memes, but never thought I'd hear it from the person who once cried during our wedding vows. Her hands were shaking. She reached for the photo like it could save her, but I pulled it away. "Room 217, huh?" I said. "Was that part of the conference package, too?" She backed away like I'd slapped her. And maybe I had, just not physically. Her smile was long gone. Now she just looked lost. Or maybe exposed. She turned away without answering and walked straight toward the bedroom. But I didn't follow, because something told me this story was only getting started. I didn't move for several minutes after she disappeared into the bedroom. The box was still on the counter, the nightgown folded neatly inside like some twisted souvenir. I stood there, staring at it, wondering how many lies it had been packed alongside. Lorna always took pride in how she packed her bags. Socks rolled, makeup zipped in color-coded pouches, everything methodical. And now I couldn't stop thinking about what else had been organized so precisely. Who helped her fold this nightgown back into her suitcase? Was it him? Eventually, curiosity outweighed dread. I walked into the hallway where she'd left her suitcase. It was still zipped, upright against the wall, as if nothing had happened. But everything had. I knelt, unzipped it slowly, half hoping I'd find nothing, half hoping I was wrong about all of it. Inside were the usual suspects: toiletries, hairbrush, charger. But then, tucked in a side pocket, I found a thin white envelope with no name on it. I opened it. Inside was a receipt. Not for dinner, not for room service, but for a jewelry boutique in Santa Fe. 1 gold bracelet. 2 words engraved. For L. There's no universe where I could afford that bracelet. And Lorna doesn't wear gifts unless they come with status. I held the receipt in my hand like it was a confession letter. I walked to the bedroom. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at her feet like they'd betrayed her too. She didn't look up. "Is he married?" I asked, still calm. Somehow, she flinched like the words stung. But she didn't deny it. That was confirmation enough. I sat across from her on the chair by the window, the one I used to sit in when she got ready for work. The same spot I told her she looked beautiful from every morning for the past 11 years. "You spent our anniversary in a hotel with another man," I said, "while I sat here wondering why you didn't text." Her shoulders collapsed. She whispered, "It wasn't supposed to go that far." I laughed quietly but not kindly. "You bought engraved jewelry. That's not going too far. That's planning for more." The silence that followed was suffocating. Then she finally looked at me, eyes wet but empty. "I was going to tell you." I nodded. "Sure you were." But inside, something cracked. Not from anger, from acceptance. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on the couch, fully clothed, arms crossed like a body in a coffin, watching shadows stretch across the ceiling while my brain replayed her silence on loop. I couldn't unsee the photo, couldn't unhear the audio, couldn't undo the feeling that I'd been demoted from husband to background noise in her life months ago. Maybe longer. She stayed in the bedroom. The door never closed, but she didn't come out. At 2:43 a.m., I heard her crying, not loud sobs, just those tight, broken exhales that sound like a person trying not to exist. I didn't check on her, not out of cruelty, just exhaustion. Emotional, not physical. There's a difference. By morning, the house felt like a stranger's Airbnb. Same furniture, different gravity. I made toast and stared at the crumbs like they could spell out an answer. She finally emerged, makeup smeared under her eyes, wearing a hoodie I hadn't seen in years, mine, from college. A peace offering? A costume? "I canceled work," she said softly. "I told them I'm sick." I nodded once, not really at her, just to the sentence. She poured coffee, didn't drink it, then stood at the window like she was waiting for someone to save her. That annoyed me, because for years, I was the one who made things okay. Flat tire? I fixed it. Sick mom? I booked her flights. Panic attack? I held her hand and reminded her to breathe. And now that the damage was hers, she acted like she'd just stumbled into it. I finally broke the silence. "Was this your first time cheating?" Her jaw tightened, that flicker in her eyes. Not guilt. Calculation. I don't know," she said. I blinked. "What do you mean, you don't know?" She turned slowly, leaning against the counter like she couldn't bear her own weight. "I mean, I don't know how to answer that without you hating me more than you already do." I wanted to scream. Instead, I whispered, "Try me." She hesitated, then said, "There were moments, flirtations, emotional stuff, but this was the first physical." I cut her off. "Don't break it into categories to make it easier to swallow." She looked down, biting her lip like she was the one betrayed. That was the moment I realized she hadn't confessed because she regretted it. She confessed because she got caught. I used to think betrayal had a sound. like glass shattering, or screaming, or maybe the slam of a door that never reopens. But now I know the truth. It's quiet. It's the silence after a half-answer. The stillness in a house filled with words no one's brave enough to say. She spent the morning pacing. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the untouched toast from earlier. My stomach twisted at the smell of her perfume, the same one she wore when we met, when she actually used to smile at me with both her mouth and her eyes. She finally stopped pacing and said, "You don't understand, Darryl. I didn't go looking for it. I didn't plan this." I looked at her, deadpan. "But you packed for it. You packed the nightgown. The one you said you threw out last year because it reminded you of your ex." Her face flushed, not from guilt, from being caught in a detail she thought I'd forgotten. And then it slipped. The moment I didn't expect. She sat across from me and whispered, "Harris wasn't supposed to follow me there." Harris. I stared at her like she had spoken in a foreign language. That name didn't belong in our house. Not in our air. I tried to piece it together. A coworker? A client? A ghost from her past? "You just said it was a mistake," I said slowly. "But now he followed you? So which is it? An accident or a prearranged getaway?" She flinched, then said nothing. I pushed back from the table and stood. "You called him by name. You didn't even hesitate." "I'm sorry," she murmured. "No, you're practiced," I snapped. "That name didn't surprise you. You've said it 100 times already." She started crying again, but I was done playing the part of the man who fixes things. I walked to the hallway closet and pulled out the spare suitcase. It wasn't for her. It was for me. "You don't have to go," she said, voice cracking. But I wasn't listening anymore. Not really. Because once you hear your wife say another man's name with that much softness, there's no volume left in your own. I didn't know where I'd go yet. But I knew one thing for sure. I wouldn't be home when she picked up the phone again to call Harris. I didn't leave the house that day. I thought I would. I thought I'd storm out, dramatic and broken. Maybe check into a motel and stare at a water-stained ceiling until the numbness swallowed me whole. But instead, I just drifted from room to room like a ghost who hadn't realized he'd died yet. She avoided me most of the afternoon. I could hear her moving upstairs. Closet doors opening, drawers closing softly, pacing. At one point, I heard her on the phone, voice low, nearly a whisper. I couldn't make out the words, but I knew that tone. The one people use when they're trying not to get caught lying. Or worse, when they're trying to protect the lie itself. I sat in the laundry room with the door cracked open, not because I was hiding. I wasn't. But because I didn't want her to know I was listening. And that's when the house phone rang. We barely used it anymore. Only her mother or random spam numbers ever called it. I picked up without thinking, just a reflex. I didn't even say hello. There was a pause on the other end. Then a voice. A man's voice. "Lorna? You okay? You said you'd call back this morning." I didn't breathe. He continued. "Look, I'm not trying to push, but I'm just sitting here thinking about last night. About you. About everything. And I know it's crazy, but I don't regret it. I need to know if you feel the same." I froze. Not because of the words, but because of how tender they were. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't a mistake. This was a man who thought she belonged to him. And then, like some sick punchline, he added, "Did he find out?" I couldn't speak, couldn't think. I just gently returned the phone to its base like it might explode in my hand if I moved too fast. I stood in the hallway for a long time after that. My heart didn't race, it slowed. Like my body was preparing to shut down some part of me I wouldn't be needing anymore. I walked upstairs. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling her phone, pretending to read something. I looked her dead in the eyes. "Harris called," I said. The phone slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a thud. She didn't ask what he said, because she already knew. She didn't speak for nearly 10 minutes after I told her Harris had called. She just sat there, frozen, like her bones were hollow and her skin too tight for her face. The phone lay on the floor between us, buzzing once. A new message. I didn't look. I didn't need to. "I was going to end it," she finally whispered. I swear, Darryl, this trip was supposed to be closure. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I'd heard that exact phrasing before. In a movie, a show, 1,000 memes. It didn't mean anything. It was only once. It's over. It's all the same recycled script with a different cast. But she wasn't acting anymore. She looked scared. Not of me, of herself. I didn't reply. I just stood there, feeling like I was breathing through wet cloth, like every word spoken in this room was pressing down harder on my ribs. Then she did something unexpected. She got up and walked to the dresser, pulled out a folded sheet of paper from beneath her sweaters, and handed it to me. "I wrote this on the plane home," she said, voice trembling. "I didn't know if I had the guts to show you." I unfolded it slowly, already regretting it. It wasn't a letter to confess. It was a letter to him. She wrote about how hard it was pretending nothing happened. How seeing my face made her feel like a traitor in her own story. How the way Harris looked at her made her feel alive again. It ended with one sentence that burned into me like fire on skin. "If I had met you first, I never would have married him." I handed the paper back without a word. She didn't take it. "I didn't send it," she said quickly. "I didn't mean it like that." But she did. Because thoughts like that don't come from nowhere. They live inside you. They wait until the moment you're honest enough or cruel enough to write them down. I walked to the door. And this time she didn't try to stop me. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't slam the door. I just walked. Past the hallway photos where we once looked happy. Past the coat rack she insisted we buy from that overpriced boutique. I stepped out into the cold without a jacket. And for the first time in months, maybe years, the chill felt good. Like clarity. I ended up at my friend Deacon's place. He's the kind of guy who doesn't ask questions when you show up unannounced. Just hands you a beer, slides over a blanket, and makes room on the couch. I told him everything, down to the letter, the phone call, the look on her face. He didn't say, "I told you so." He just listened. 2 nights later, Lorna sent me a message. Not an apology. Not an excuse. Just, "I'm sorry for turning you into someone who doubted everything. You deserved better." And for once, I didn't cry. I didn't spiral. I didn't reread it 100 times like I usually did with her texts. I just stared at it for a moment, nodded to myself, and deleted it. And that's when I knew I wasn't broken anymore. The weirdest part? I'm not angry. Not really. Betrayal doesn't always leave you burning. Sometimes it just leaves you lighter. Like someone finally ripped off a weight you didn't know you were dragging around. I moved into a small 1-bedroom apartment 2 blocks from the lake. It's quiet, a little drafty, but it feels mine. Entirely mine. I started going for walks before sunrise. Bought a record player. I even signed up for a beginner's cooking class where I'm the only one under 60. The old ladies have started calling me Honey Bun. I don't hate it. Will I ever trust someone like that again? I don't know. But I know this much: next time I won't ignore the missing toothbrush. I won't second-guess my instincts. Because I may have lost a wife, but I found peace. Thanks for sticking with this emotional roller coaster on Reddit Confessions. What moment in this story hit you the hardest? The photo, the phone call, or the letter? Share your thoughts below. We read every single comment. And remember, sometimes the worst endings make room for the best beginnings.